What is going on, guys? Welcome back to our live coverage here. I'm so excited that we are joining you guys on the dot here at 5 o'clock Eastern time. A lot of moving parts behind the scenes. So many great folks that work behind the scenes on this show to help get us into a position where we can do these live. We love getting you these picks as soon as possible, of course, because the lines move. And we're so excited to do it back here for a pay-per-view. UFC 301, Alexandre Pantoja, Steve Erceg, the headliner from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. We'll break down the 14 fights on this card together. But first, I've got to bring in my man, the myth, the long shot legend, Matty Tanner, giving a lean away a little bit already on one of his picks, but that's okay. He also released it on social media, and I'm going to ask him a different question today. How about Ivana Petrovic by submission, buddy? Made our week last week at the Apex.
Yeah, that was a big one, bro. We needed that one. But first of all, for the purpose of this show, my name is not Matty Tanner or Mattybetts. You can call me the Bear Jew because the Bear Jew is pulling off the upset of the year this weekend, and he's doing it by knockout.
I mean, you've looked two Brazilian MMA fighters in the face and told them I'm taking Paul Craig by knockout against your boy. That's the type of conviction you have. In fact, you have a leg kick from Gilbert Burns on the line, if I'm not mistaken, and that's probably going to hurt.
Yeah, I got a lot of units and probably a left leg on the line. So I'm hoping if I have to take the leg kick, I'm hoping it's at like 50% or so because I'm not trying to take that at like 80% plus. It's going to be brutal. So. But it's not going to matter because it ain't happening.
It ain't happening. We will get to Kyle Borralho, Paul Craig on the main card, but first we got to dive into the prelims as well, and that starts with the first fight up on the card here. Alessandro Costa taking on Kevin Borges, Battle of Latin America. We got Brazil versus Peru here. A couple of flyweights that, honestly, really tough assignments so far. Kevin Borges got Josh Van in his UFC debut. Costa's already seen Steve Erceg, who's headlining this card, as well as he saw Amir Albazi as well. So tough level of competition. Unsure a little bit where these guys are going to stand and play. Bearju, what you got in this fight?
Yeah, I lean Costa. I just think I like the fact that he's a teammate of Diego Lopez. Like I like that a lot. And he's faced good competition, right? Like Amir Albazi, Erceg. I just think that that's going to serve him well here in this fight.
Yeah, even Jimmy Flick took a multi-time winner, submitted a couple of guys, submitted Cody Durden. So Flick is a different type of matchup, but I think a difficult one. For all the fine folks, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the Home of Fight Discord, you want my picks, Maddie's picks, Clint McLean from the Die Hard MMA podcast. We are all in the Home of Fight Discord. That link will be in. Hopefully, maybe we could get someone to pop it in the chat if anyone wants to join during the show. I put 2.7 units on Costa at minus 135. It looks like my money and others have kind of moved his money line. Now, the method is a little bit tough, but I think Costa's not only faced the level of competition. I do love the camp with Diego Lopez, but just a weird stylistic thing where Borges didn't really have a ton of success against Van. Like, he was very tough. He showed durability there, but also taken down. I feel like Costa in the one unranked matchups he had, he completely dominated Flick opening bell. And something I'm looking at in this fight, Costa comes in, he had quite a few regional submissions, hasn't really had a chance to use it at all. Erceg, very good submission defense. Albazi, of course, a grappling ace. And then Jimmy Flick is of the same variety. So kind of tough to get a feel whether or not he's got those submission skills in UFC. And I think it could come to play here. I saw that was 7-1. I noticed that before we went live here. It's an interesting number.
Yeah, 100%, bro. And that's some good love in the chat for you. Danny just said he took a few of your picks last weekend. He was up 12 units from your breakdown. So shout out my co-host right here.
Yeah, I need Danny to build my card for me because I was down 4 units. I wonder what I did wrong or what we could track forward. But, we make different stands somewhere else. Like, I love a specific market play and things like that. But it's kind of tough. The data is a little messy in this fight. Borges, I don't know how much to hold it against him. Like, he had the matchup against, I think it was Edwin Diaz was his first name. Last name Diaz on the Contender Series. Super grappling heavy dude. Like a dude they entered with 95% pro win submission rate. Borges just a 56% takedown defense. Like, we haven't seen a lot of offensive wrestling from Costa. He knocked down Jimmy Flick, would preferred to strike against both Erceg and Albazi. I don't know if he's got the takedown game in him or if it's more of a Diego Lopez style where he's looking for a club and sub, but I just value his experience a lot better. Like, I've just never been super high on Borges. Like, I thought Josh Van would walk through him. He did. UFC flyweight record for submission, significant strikes in a fight. Costa's got a lot of power behind that as well. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
the number I got was better. Minus 156, a little bit tougher sell, but what do you think about sub?
I'm personally probably gonna look at inside the distance here. I want to pull that number up right now.
Okay.
But I could actually see a KO on the feet in this one too.
Yeah. Or just I mean, the way he took that beating from Josh Van was very impressive to me. I thought Van
That's
certainly
true.
was live inside the distance, but Van also not a guy with a lot of power. Very different archetype than Costa.
Right. Yeah, and Costa's down to minus 138 on FanDuel right now.
Interesting. And it's kind of oscillated like that beforehand. In fact, actually, I saw a minus 130 hanging out there for one of the books in my state. I was like, dang, I didn't get the best of the number. But then you'll check FanDuel, you'll check DraftKings, you'll check whoever, and the line is fluctuated. So a lot of two-way action on this fight. I'm glad you're kind of leaning Costa here.
Yeah.
Inside the distance,
Yeah, I don't know that it'll make my official card or not.
Yeah.
But it's my early lean. He's plus 190 to win inside the distance, so I might take a look at that. Maybe even a round 2-3 prop.
Yeah. And I was only able to model, I modeled 7 fights on this card. Borges, not quite enough data. He's getting close. Like, if this one goes to decisions, Borges would be model eligible, but I really hope to see better striking efficiency than 41%. Like, knowing what Costa's gone enough, his is at 46%. Like, I don't know what Borges maybe outside on the feet with volume. Costa didn't really slow down in that Erceg fight, though. I thought Erceg was going to walk through him, and he did not. I was very impressed. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm having a tough time deciphering method, and that's why I'm glad on the money line. And maybe if it's available minus 138, maybe some folks can hop onto the money line with me too.
Yeah.
So we'll move on without a whole lot there. I don't know how much we'll have on this next fight either here. This is actually a run back from the last time UFC was in Brazil. This was going to happen in Sao Paulo. Had Ishmael Bonfim weight miss. Vince Pichel said, I'm not taking the fight. He's cheating. And now they'll run it back here in Rio de Janeiro. So maybe it was meant to be in Brazil. After all, we'll see if Bonfim can get through the scales. But the money line looks very similar. Ishmael Bonfim minus 520 favorite, one of the larger ones on the card. Maddie, are you thinking about pulling another huge upset given the face paint here and we're just going crazy, or you think maybe Bonfim might be better chalk than Caio Borralho later to come?
Yeah, no, I think for Bonfim this is a get right fight.
Okay.
You know, he lost to Benoit Saint Denis, but I just think I think this is probably a good get right spot for him with the 41-year-old here. The knockouts plus 175, the submissions plus 500. Does that surprise you at all?
A little bit. I'm at last glance, I don't think Pichel is super he's not susceptible to submissions. Like he went all 15 minutes with Jim Miller, had a lot of top controls. Yeah, just one career pro loss by submission, and at this point, that's a lengthy pro career, 17 fights over.
But only one loss by knockout too.
Yeah, he's very durable. In a vacuum. Now, the reason my model bakes in attrition is because we start to see these guys that get over 40. I did this with Ronnie Yaya last week, where he historically had been very durable too. But once you cross that magic 38, 39-year-old threshold, I don't know if it's the same. And I feel like Bonfim is maybe even a bit undervalued here because of how he fought against Benoit Saint Denis. We have seen what Saint Denis is as a monster physically, especially in the grappling. Yeah. Like he was taking Dustin Poirier down, guillotines aside.
Right.
I don't hold that loss against Bonfim a lot. 81% takedown defense, and the way he pieced up Terrence McKinney was a total shocker to me. I picked T-Rex in that fight. McKinney has head defense issues at times, but Bonfim made him look like an amateur level striker in that fight. Ended up getting a second round knockout. I'm kind of leaning knockout here, but Pichel also has a 23% takedown defense, which is awful. So I think Bonfim, it's kind of a pick your poison type of thing. My question for you is, does Gabriel Bonfim, when we lost him against Nicholas Dalby, significant cardio issues, these guys make great hammers. Are you a little worried about if this fight prolongs maybe cardio issues? We saw the weight miss earlier. Like, we're trying to figure out who sells this massive lay of Brazilian favorites. And here's a guy on the prelims against a historically durable customer. I'm just wondering if it's like a concern of yours at all.
You know, it's crazy. So Vince to win in round 2 is 29-1, and round 3 is 34-1.
Yeah.
It's not crazy, bro. It's really not. I mean, I really don't think it's that crazy.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
have
I do think that the value's on the submission for Bonfim though.
yeah.
Like I know Vince only been subbed once, but the fact that he's only been KO'd once too,
Mhm.
and Bonfim has 4 submissions. Like I know Vince went the distance with Jim Miller, but I think if we're gonna see a dominant performance from Bonfim and a good bounce back performance here, like I think the sub is live at 5-1. You're getting a 5-1 favorite at 5-1 odds on a submission.
Yeah.
I just think that's something to at least look at here.
Super weird. Decision is plus 160 here for Bonfim.
Decision is the most likely outcome. Go
Super
figure.
weird. Yeah, I mean, super weird when inside the distance is still minus 105. So it's favored inside the distance, but at the same time, the individual outcomes are longer than plus
Right.
160 for points. So that's how much win equity he's got baked in. I think that's appropriate. It's just odds makers expecting a little bit longer of a fight. Like this fight is minus 136 to not go the distance, which
Yeah.
might be honestly a better number than taking Bonfim inside the distance at minus 105, just because we talked about the cardio issues, the potential unknown there, because like we only got about 6 minutes of him against McKinney. He folded against St. Denis, but I just feel like Pichel, UFC does not like it. Remember Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? They don't like it when a guy misses weight by a pound or two and you decline the fight anyway and take it off of a huge marquee card. That's what Pichel did in Sao Paulo. I think there's a reason they want him to run this matchup back and they weren't letting him back onto the senior circuit, because two of Pichel's last 3 fights, Mark Madsen, 39 years old, Jim Miller, now 41 years old. Like, he's been fighting that level of competition, and now he steps back to a youngster that blitzed through Terrence McKinney, and that's kind of why I still
Yeah.
need inside the distance. I agree with you where I think it's a little bit like we talked about Karine Silva last week. Feels like a very binomial outcome, could be 50-50. Knockout submission, you kind of just tend to lean the better number when Pichel himself doesn't have any real notable trends.
Yeah. And honestly, bro, like McKinney and nothing for Bonfim. Like Bonfim just outclassed him completely.
Yeah.
And then he goes out and loses to Benoit, and like this is almost in a way a buy low spot on him, even though the money line is outrageous.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, but the problem is the 3 fights before McKinney, decision.
Wow.
So like, it is tough. Like, it's a really hard fight to dissect here. Like, any outcome is on the table here. Vince could win late. Bonfim could win a decision. Bonfim could get a crazy sub. I think if I gun to my head, I'm taking Bonfim by knockout.
Okay.
But like, I don't love the odds at plus 175.
Okay.
But I just think that he'll. Like, I think you can maybe play like a round 2 KO here. I wonder what a round 2 KO would pay.
Yeah, if you take a peek at that, I agree with you. Like, I parlayed Bonfim at minus 450, so I got a little bit better of a number, even though it doesn't matter a great deal.
7-1 round 2 KO.
That's not bad.
That's a good number, bro. That's a good number.
The only thing you're worried about there is that Pichel's durability has just fallen off a cliff, because when was the last time we saw him? I think 2022, I want to say. Yeah, right. April 2022 was the last time we saw Pichel.
I love this comment, by the way, in the chat. Maddie, can I interest you in a Vince round 2 submission plus 7,500, round 3? Bonfim has lost 4 times by sub, bro. And if he gasses, you just never know.
Yeah.
Those numbers are insane.
What do we got here? Man, that must be some. Wow, I've got Pichel sub round 2. FanDuel caps it at 50-1, so you're not going to get better than 50-1 on an individual prop.
Yeah, I see 50-1 on each. That's insane though, bro. I'm going to take a look at it. As all of you know, or hopefully most of you know that are on the show, everything we give out on the show is 9 times out of 10 not an official pick. Yeah. So I like to do this show with Austin. I give you, everyone that's watching, my raw reactions and gut intuition on everything, and then I go and build my card tomorrow after the weigh-ins and after watching more tape. So always look out for our full card by Friday night. But this is a show where we just tell you guys everything that's on our mind. We go through the numbers, we go through the outcomes. But there's definitely a world where I could look at a Vince round 2-3 here, bro. Like,
yeah,
it's definitely not out of the question. So This
I
is a
mean,
fight that I could see betting multiple ways, truthfully.
yeah, for sure. Like, and another thing, you and I try our best not to talk to each other before about the fights beforehand. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it slips through. Like I see you're on Paul Craig on social media. I can't ignore it. But and number two is we are both looking at the lines mostly for the first time, so you get our genuine reaction because that's where your organic sense of value is going to come in. First and foremost. Question in the chat: is this a show that gets uploaded to Home of Fight? We will upload this to YouTube. I think it'll be on your YouTube channel,
It'll
right?
be on, yeah. So we're actually changed it. So it's presented by Home of Fight, but it's on the Mattybetts YouTube channel and it's on the Mattybetts Facebook is where you'll find it moving forward.
We'll give Maddie some handsome painted over FaceTime here. So why don't we move on since we don't have a defined method there here? Probably nothing parlay pieces. Who doesn't love some terrible women's MMA? And we've got it on deck in Brazil. Ernesta Karecka, I hope I said that correctly. Dion Barbosa, both making their debut off the Contender Series at women's flyweight. I got thoughts about this fight. I don't know how much of them translate to betting action. I have not bet it yet. I'm going to toss it over to Maddie, all largely knowing his answer, but have you bet it yet? And do you have any specific leans here?
I'm leaning dog here.
Okay.
I've won on her before in the past. I'm trying to pull that up now. Which fight
On the
that
Contender
was.
Series?
Yeah, the Contender Series. So I used to do like collab parlays with Full Send MMA, and they would give me a leg, and I would pick a leg, and we would go two fight parlay on it. And she was in as a dog last time around.
Sick.
But no, I'm not confident on this fight really whatsoever. But again, low level women's MMA, I kind of lean the dog here in this spot. I do want to watch a little more footage here, but that would be my initial lean.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have that same lean. So maybe we do craft a play out of this awful fight because I think Karecka by decision plus 310 auto bet in this spot. It's a process. I've told you, Maddie, I've been doing these tight women's fights. A lot of unknown, favored to go the distance. I love betting the dog by decision just as like a system play type of thing.
Yeah.
And I realistically see it here because Dion Barbosa against Rain Guerrero in the Contender Series, that girl had no idea what she was doing. I don't know. It wasn't jujitsu, how she was surviving and trying to make it out of those positions. It was almost like witchcraft or some sort of other martial art because it wasn't very effective. Was armbarred quickly. I think Guerrero's 4-3 as a pro. She's been subbed twice. Like, I don't read anything into that win. Whereas you mentioned Karecka was a dog on the Contender Series. The things I liked, she defended all 4 takedowns. Her pace, 12.27 significant strikes per minute would be the all-time women's record if it somehow stood in that neighborhood through 5 fights. Now, are the girls going to get better? Could she have grappling issues? Doesn't have a lot of experience, just 6 pro fights herself. Yes, and yes, but huge reach advantage here. I think she actually has decent power for this division. She's pretty large for this weight class at 5'9". And what have we seen over and over again? Judges prefer damage to control, and Barbosa is much more of a control grappler. She had a very raw fight with Silva that I watched. Not really super high level at that point. Silva was just a purple belt. She was 25. Like, I don't think Dion Barbosa would last very long with current Silva. And that is to me inflating this number a little bit when a very different version of Silva is who she got the win over. Whereas I think right now in reality, Karecka defends takedowns well. She's a very aggressive, heavy-handed striker. I did that on purpose just because her nickname is Heavy Handed. I'm such a dork for women's MMA, but I lean the same as you, dude. I think I'm going to sprinkle Karecka as well as her decision line. I may end up just playing one unit on the decision because, like, I don't know if she can get a finish in this spot. She's so young. She's so inexperienced. Like, I don't think she's pulling out a sub on Barbosa. And Dion's been decently durable. So she was knocked out by Josie Nunes, but Nunes now fights at 135. So that was like a weight class discrepancy. I don't know. Maybe I do play money line primary and then sprinkle the decision, but we got the same lean here.
Yeah, Ernesta by KO is 8-1.
Yeah, wow, that's really long. Like, I don't think she's got any submission equity at all. So
right. Yeah, what is the submission?
I was looking double chance.
26-1. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, I'm right there with it.
Yeah, it's KO or decision.
They sent her to pasture on the Contender Series. That Carly Judice girl, I bet she'll be back. And like it was like a foregone conclusion that they were going to give her the contract. And Karecka surprised everybody. She won the brawl, and maybe she keeps going. I tend to just like Dion Barbosa was doing things on social media with like Chris Cyborg this weekend. Like she's feeling herself now that she's got this contract. I kind of prefer these Eastern European girls like Karecka that just head down, training in the gym, quiet, not on social media. Like I know the
Mm-hmm.
approach that I'm going to get every single time, especially at a dog price.
Yeah, I like the plus 310 decision prop.
Yeah.
That's my, as of right now, that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I'm gonna go away from that. We only have 2 women's fights on the card. I'm gonna go away from it in the next one, which we'll talk to. But like it's been a good system for me. I cashed Joanne Wood in Miami. Um, God, I'm trying to think of some others now recently, but I had another one mixed in there. Maybe I can remember it before the end of the show. But yeah, we'll move on here for the sake of time because we've spent enough on women's MMA here. How about a welterweight or lightweight battle? Former welterweight Mauricio Ruffy taking on Jamie Mullarkey. This is our first exposure to the Fighting Nerds camp that Matty is fading with Kyle Borralho. We got 3 of them on this card. Here is number 1 from Brazil taking on a guy in Mullarkey that, boy, he has experienced the high of highs in UFC and the lows of lows. Now a plus 158 underdog. Curious, I actually included Ruffy in a parlay yesterday. I'm curious what your read on this fight was because I would not be totally opposed to a Mullarkey argument here.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you a Mullarkey argument here. I think Ruffy will get this done.
Yeah.
I mean, Mullarkey's been finished, 5 times now.
Mm-hmm.
5 losses by TKO. Jalen Turner got him out of there. Muhammad Naimov, like Nasrat in round 1. His durability feels like it's gone at this point. How old is it? What's his age? He's only 29.
He's only 29, but I mean, I'm seeing the same thing as you. Dropped it five times in his last 6 fights. Like that's what you see, even if he's winning.
Yeah,
is that he's getting dropped.
Yeah, I mean, look at Nasrat. Like he wasn't getting finishes before that fight. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 8 fights in between finishes when Nasrat just finished Mullarkey. He didn't have a fight for 8. He didn't have a finish for 8 fights prior.
You know why I'm fully aware? I talked you onto Mullarkey by decision against Nasrat, and it did not end nearly how I thought it would.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, I kind of like early here, like a 1-2 KO. What do you think?
I think so too. Ruffy 9 wins, all of them by knockout, most of them very early. I just think that Mullarkey by stature is much closer to featherweight than he is welterweight, and now you have a guy dropping down from 170. History, track record of power, showed it on the Contender Series against a guy who's been dropped 5 times in his last 6 fights. Like I'm not going to galaxy brain some Mullarkey argument here when realistically he does have an advantage in experience, which can be valuable, but at the same time, it's not super quality experience when you have a negative striking success rate. I feel like he's fallen in love with his hands. When he burst into UFC, he had 8 takedowns in his first 2 fights. He has just 7 in the 8 fights since then. I feel like he's fallen in love with his hands after a couple of knockouts, and this is not the matchup to fall in love with your hands whatsoever. And Ruffy, he defended every takedown he faced on the Contender Series. Ruffy pulled a big upset on the Contender Series, had one of those Khabib guys that was a prohibitive favorite. I forget the name and would butcher it anyway, but he was able to stuff the takedowns, find the power shots, get him out of there. Like I feel like he could be
in round 3, right?
Yeah. If you're going to spam wrestle these Fighting Nerd guys, it is a terrible strategy, which I think plays into your Paul Craig read. Is Craig's not going to shoot double legs all fight and try to take these guys down in traditional ways. I think that's a terrible approach against them. We saw that on the Contender Series, and if I don't know what Mullarkey's path is because I think he's the less efficient striker, less power, and he's going to have a hard time getting him to the ground. I don't see it. That's why I parlayed him last night.
Yeah. And there's good questions in the chat. Like, there's 2 ways to look at it. You go 1-2 here if you just think Mullarkey's durability's gone. But also, a lot of Ruffy's finishes are round 2, 3. I mean, really, it's mainly rounds 1, 2, actually. He just had the recent one in the Contender Series in round 3. I still lean... Brad, I just lost. Can you hear me, Austin?
Yep, I got you. Am I law? We
Give
got
me
you.
1 second, Austin.
Okay.
I can't hear you. Can you still hear me? Give me a thumbs up. All right, well, I'm going to keep talking then while Brad's fixing it. I still lean the 1-2 here just because I don't think Mullarkey's durability is all that great. And I just think that's the best way to go here. But like round 1 KO is plus 280.
Yeah.
Round 2 KO is plus 500, and then round 3 KO is plus 950.
Yeah, I think that round 1 is plus 280 is not a terrible number on the basis that Ruffy sparks him early, and I would have expected that when it's even money for a knockout, I would have expected that number much shorter. Can you hear me now? Maybe. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. It's probably for the best for Maddie's bankroll if he can't hear me. But I tend to lean early as well on the basis like Mullarkey was just 6 minutes in against Turner, ended up getting knocked out. The Naimov finish was really weird, where he was dominating that fight, and then all of a sudden Mohamed Naimov comes out of nowhere with a punch and lands it against him. I feel like Ruffy is going to take a much more aggressive approach than maybe a Naimov did. The lack of experience scares me, but in the large time, this is a chin bet. I usually don't get many of them right when I am taking Ruffy.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way, bro.
Yeah.
I'm listening to audio on my phone, by the way.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, you're loud is clear for the audience. So we'll move forward here. We'll move on to the next fight. Now
Okay,
we're
cool,
leading
cool.
Ruffy KO.
I think I'm back. Hold on. Well, I'll
Technical
move on to the next one in the meantime. You can
Okay.
start with it.
So
this
next
is
fight up,
working, bro.
also at lightweight, a little bit
Do the
more
next slide for
seasoned.
me.
There we go. A little bit more seasoned lightweights here, each of them with 10 UFC fights apiece. Drakkar Klose coming off that slam knockout of Joe Solecki back at UFC Austin last fall. Joaquim Silva on the other side went life and death and really irritated Maddie when it came to a potential KO bet. I think he had an early finish against Clay Guida. Silva took the dumbest fight IQ to go to a full decision. We don't really want to hold that onto him too much. This is a decently competitive fight, at least just compared to other money lines on the card. What are you thinking here? Because I gave my lean away, and this is actually the first fight on the card I could model, and we'll dive into that in a minute.
So first of all, wasn't Drakkar? He was a smaller favorite, wasn't he?
Yeah. So
Didn't he opened earlier?
Yeah, he was minus 186 on Sunday when I pulled. I don't know about.
Okay, so it wasn't drastic. For some reason I was thinking he was like minus 150 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the problem with Joaquim Silva, bro. Is actually I hate Joaquim Silva because he made me think less favorably of Arman Sarukian. Right, like he's probably the reason I hammered Oliveira against Arman.
Yeah.
But no, I think Drakkar here is. I think I think it's valid that he should be the favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like him in this fight. Like if you actually look at, his tapology right here, like bro, if it wasn't for, if he nearly finished Beneil Dariush, right, and then Beneil had that crazy comeback that is like one of the more viral clips that we've seen, like in the octagon. He had that crazy comeback, right? But let's say he would have got Beneil out of there. He would literally be on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He'd be on a 7-fight win streak. He was this close to finishing Beneil Dariush in that fight. That was back in 2020. He destroys Joe Solecki in his last fight with that slam.
Yep.
I think very highly of Rafael Garcia.
Yep.
He won a decision against him. I think Drakkar is super underrated. I hate that this price is so high. I thought it was actually in like the minus 150 range. I'd like to work with you on figuring out the best way to play him here, unless you're on the opposite side. But
I'm not.
Which you may be.
I'm not. I've got Close modeled at minus 205 here, which is actually a really convincing result from my model and a couple of like old guys. And given that I've got the fight to go the distance 59.7% of the time. Look, you remember what happened with Drakkar Klose. He was going to take on Jeremy Stephens. Stephens pushed him at weigh-ins. He lost like 2 or 3 years of his career due to a neck injury. Otherwise, this could arguably be a ranked guy. The way he fought Dariush, he beat Bobby Green convincingly, Lando Venata, Christos Giagos, like a lot of those guys that at least in that era were right on the outside of the rankings. I think that Klose, I was probably on the wrong side given Solecki's one-dimensional nature in his last fight. Now that was just kind of a fluke finish that you can't expect a replica of that again. But I think
that was savage though. That was a savage finish.
It was, and I think that Silva has these moments as a striker, but they're few and far between. And the thing is, I hate BJJ guys that don't have a great way of getting it into where they can win the fight, and that is Silva. Just 0.45 takedowns per 15 minutes. He has a hard time getting it to his best asset, which is probably his BJJ. It's probably a step ahead of Close, but you see who Close has gone into deep waters with and didn't get submitted. Guys like didn't get submitted by Selecki. Interesting defense, but it's notable. Rafa Garcia, Jagos has quite a few pro submissions, and Mark Jacasey as well as another guy that is not horrible in this lightweight division. Interesting question for you about your other podcast. You do have Moicano said that Joaquim's not really a wrestling, grappling, or sub threat. He sure hasn't shown it on paper, so I would agree with Money.
Yeah, no, that's not what he said. He said that him and Gilbert basically said the guy doesn't like training that. Like he has it in his back pocket, but he just when he sees them training in the gym, it's always on the pads and boxing and striking.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like to use that, But like, I think Close is a really good favorite here, bro. I actually like him as a parlay piece. I'd be down to throw him in our parlay here. I mean, look, Joaquim is capable of putting his lights out. There's no question.
Yeah.
But I think Close is super underrated. I think he can win this fight. Inside the distance for Drakkars plus 180.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would lean early or late here in this fight. I would probably lean late, like 2-3.
I'm thinking length as well. I've got Close, most likely outcome of the fight in general, Close by decision 38% of the time. I bet if I run some math on that, I'm showing value against his current number. Yeah, I've got Close decision plus 165. It's plus 195 on FanDuel. That's kind of what I'm leaning. We had a comment. It was interesting. Close talking about his family going through tough times. I do remember that in his interview in Austin. Maybe he is more conservative, especially in a hostile. But the thing is, I'd really hate to be a non-Brazilian going to the judges on Saturday. I think it's a really dumb idea because we could see some absolute buffoonery. I'll talk to Maddie about that actually in a fight on the main card that it would concern me. I think that Close would be ahead. You look at the striking success rates; it's not close. Plus 0.93 striking success rate for Drakkar, minus negative 0.90 for Silva. So these guys are almost two significant strikes a minute apart as far as landed differential. I feel like Close wins at distance here. He's got a 1-inch reach edge, so not really worried about that. That's phenomenal news in the chat that we might be flying in some of the judges. Now, I'm never thrilled to have Sal D'Amato and Chris Lee around, but maybe more so than random judges from Brazil that might be a little bit more biased toward their side. But I think Close, in a conservative, respectful way. Silva's defense isn't bad, 54% striking D, and Close has largely been durable. That other than the big moment against Beneil Dariush, has only been finished once in 11 UFC fights. So I really like him here.
I think he's a good favorite. And round 2 KOs plus 850, round 3 KOs plus 1,000. I don't hate either of those.
Yeah,
Joki's never been submitted. There's a possibility he could have like an adrenaline dump and gas in this fight.
True.
Like if it becomes a war early, it's in Brazil, he's all pumped up, and I think I just have a weird feeling about round 3 in this fight. I really do.
Interesting, dude. And by the way, let me pull up there is a round 3 decision prop on FanDuel if you wanted to get both of those. But Silva also, by the way, knocked out or TKO'd in 3 of his last 5. One of those was ground and pound from Saryukian. So, kind of interesting. Close by round 3 or decision plus 135. That number typically isn't what Maddie's looking for, but I think it is an interesting way that if you think maybe there's an adrenaline dump or gas, you can hedge a tiny bit against that points prop plus 195. So round 3 decision plus 135, good market. I can't bet it since it's on FanDuel. Maybe I could find it on one of my books as well, but I'm glad you like Close here. I've seen some love. I think you got to be very careful with these home country underdogs because we've got all these chalk favorites. That's exactly who's going to be the first pick from the public of who's the underdog on the card I'm going to go for. I'll take the home country guy. Doesn't really manifest like that in data typically. So we'll move forward here. I'm glad Maddie can hear me again. Maybe.
And by the way, Drakkar Close 0 submission wins. Joaquim Silva 0 submission losses. I think you play around 2-3 KO here for Close. I think it's a no-brainer.
Close is 22-1 by sub. I think it's for good reason, just like Karecka, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
But next fight up at featherweight, I hope you saw this moment on social media yesterday. These two just had a random stare down near an
I saw
elevator
that. Yeah,
in the hotel. John Silva and William Gomis actually turning into a people's main event for us bettors. I've heard a lot of good guys on both sides of this fight here. Jean Silva, a dropping favorite now down to -130. He was as large as let's see, I had him at -146 is what he topped out at on Monday. So was a larger favorite. Now some money on Gomis. Couple of featherweights with not much UFC experience here. I think that you can make decent arguments for both of these guys. So I'm curious to hear what Maddie's is.
I really want to see Silva win this fight, bro. I just want to see him knock him out cold. Like
Yeah.
I would love to see that. I think it would just be so exciting. I'm not a big fan of Gomis. However the hell you say his last name.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of boring, his style. I think that he's gonna really try to keep Silva away from him in this fight and just try to win like a point fight, you know. And nobody wants to see that shit. Like nobody. That definitely nobody in Brazil wants to see that. And Silva's kind of like a wild man to me.
Yep.
You know, so I haven't even looked at the KO props on this one. But this is I could see this being a fight where Silva's kind of outstruck, but like he lands the bigger, more damaging shots, and maybe he's able to get him out of there. Maybe he isn't. But if he isn't, I think it's going to be a very frustrating fight for him and for the fans.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you that only one of these dudes is going to come looking for a finish, and that'll be Silva. That typically gives away my lean. I would rather have the guy that is there to inflict damage, the way the scoring criteria is. Gomi is just so frustrating. Just 2.62 significant strikes per minute, as well as, but he defends 75% of incoming advances so far. I actually think Gomi's competition has really been very, very poor. Takes on Jarno Aarons. Aarons had that good win a few weeks ago, but that was more of a striking battle. Gomi took him down 3 times. We haven't really seen the wrestling come out since. Then Giannis Gamuri, Francis Marshall. I don't even know if Francis Marshall's a UFC level guy, even though he got the win over the bantamweight kid in his debut. I like Jean Silva a lot. I think there's like a physicality, there's an intensity to him. Landed 52% of his significant strikes on the Contender Series. And I disagreed with Clint in our Discord. He said that Kevin Vallejos, who was his opponent on the Contender Series, was bad. I think Vallejos is pretty good. He's 22. He's a little bit raw. Didn't quite have the same refinement, but he was pretty durable to hang in there when Silva was really kicking his butt. And I think Gomi's defensive responsibility could make this fight very frustrating, but I do think Silva, especially being the aggressor, could be the one to win it. Now, what's interesting to me is Silva showed a little bit of wrestling and grappling on the Contender Series. I don't know if Gomis faced a real threat like that, especially if he's in bottom position on the mat. Wasn't there against Francis Marshall, who has a few pro wins by sub. Gamori's not that guy, and Jarno Aarons is definitely not that guy. You and I fall in love with the subs probably to our own detriment, but I think John Silva by sub plus 750 super interesting here, dude.
I agree. I was just gonna say that.
I
plus
think
750 is an insane number, bro.
Yeah. And when I'm talking about if Gomi is going to be very protective, now William, very good takedown defense, 81%. And something about these French guys, man, it's just I feel like if you get them into bottom position, they have a way to quit. And I feel like sometimes they can quit in those positions. Gomi feels very much like a French fighter, very pointy, very kickboxy, not super physical. I could see Silva getting him to the ground and bringing him into deep waters and grabbing the neck.
Yeah. I like the round 2-3. I mean the numbers are crazy, bro. 9-1 and 12-1. And that's just a finish.
Yep. Oh, so you're talking about round 2-3?
Round 2-3 for Silva, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be able to get to him that quickly, like in round 1. I could be wrong, but
I think I'd rather just play sub.
Oh my god, bro. Round 2 sub 27-1. Round 3 33-1.
That smells like your card, brother. Like, well, I know you doing this. I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice. I really like Silva here too. Now, like it scares me to death. Like I respect Hayjive a ton. He's got 2 units on Gomi. Clint the same. Like those are my film guys that I really do value their opinion. I just have watched Gomi myself, and I'm not overly impressed from an aggression standpoint, from a volume standpoint, and that's what shows up, especially in my world, when you look at it analytically. And Silva was. I have a lot of respect for Vallejos in the Contender Series. I think I told Clint, I said he might even be back next season and get a contract with a little bit of seasoning. He's already won twice regionally, so I like Silva in this fight. I think I've been waiting for this money line to drop because I'm not quite sure decision or submission, but I do think I got to take a nibble at that sub prof if it's 7.5 to 1.
Yeah, agree.
So let's keep it moving here.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this one.
Dude, me too, because I actually tweeted it out on Tuesday. I said I have talked to so many guys who are sharp on both sides that are on complete opposite sides of this fight. They have so much conviction on both sides. So I couldn't wait to get in here and see what you thought about it. Current betting line: Mattybetts Orolbai, the UFC's mystery man that came in on short notice and subbed Erceg, minus 265. Elvis Brenner keeps getting these long numbers. He's cashed twice as at least a plus 500 underdog. So he's in a familiar position. Orolbai in a little bit of a familiar position. Totally open ears to hear your argument here. I don't have any action yet because I've just been weighing this fight, and I can't wait to find out what you think.
I think Orolbai is the real deal, bro. Yeah. And this is not an easy fight. There's no question about it. I mean, Brenner is a fucking savage.
Yeah.
But when I saw Orolbai come in, when he came in short notice on his last fight, right?
He did.
Yeah, when I saw him come in short notice against Erceg, and he was a favorite, I hammered him. I was like, I don't got to do anything. I don't got to watch tape. I don't got to do anything. I was like, I know this guy's winning. Like, he came in short notice against Medic, who's a guy who, like, I think we have a high opinion about, and he was a favored. And I was like, what is going on here? And then you see, if you go and watch footage on this guy, he's a guy that can take a punch. Like, he can take punches on the feet. He seems very durable. I think he has a gas tank. I think he's going to come forward. Now, I think as the fight progresses, I think it's going to get difficult for him. Like, he's going to be in a lot of danger against Brenner. I mean, we saw Brenner fold what's-his-name late recently. Who was it?
It was a girl.
2 fights ago.
Oh, 2 fights. Well, so he goes to a decision with Zubaira Tuhugov, and then he gets the round 3 on Girom Kute-Ladze. Oh, you're right. I forgot about
round 3.
He got Kraszewski on like 2 days' notice. I mentally just checked that out.
The round 3 I'm talking about. That was impressive.
Yeah, against Kute-Ladze.
Like, he's not going to quit. There's no doubt about it. But if Orolbai's just controlling you, what can you really do?
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, odds makers think that's what's going to happen. The most likely outcome is Orolbai by decision at plus 150. You know, but it's just not exciting, obviously, against a guy that's dangerous in Elvis Brenner.
Sure.
So I just feel like the number, the fact that this money line is so high, it's like odds makers like, please don't bet this guy.
Yeah.
Please don't bet on him, right? Because it's like Brenner is so attractive as a 2-to-1 dog. Like, he's a madman. He can finish people. He's not going to quit. You always want to bet on dogs, right? If you want to bet on an underdog, you want to bet on a straight dog. And Elvis Brenner is that, but I feel like it's bait. I really do. I think it's bait here, and I think it's somewhat trappy. I think Orolbai is just gonna. I think he's gonna be able to control him physically.
Yeah, I'm so glad we are giving both sides of this fight, because I'm gonna give the other side here, where I do like Erceg a lot. The one thing he's consistently shown he can't do is really defend takedowns and grapple particularly well. He did against Semmelsberger. Even I think Tim Means got him down once last week before the uppercut from hell, right? That's my concern, is that Medic was a good matchup to do that, and Orolbai took advantage of that. It was a good stylistic matchup. Here, guys have tried that against Brenner. He's got an 85% takedown defense to Hugov, Kute-Ladze. Now, I like I said, I kind of throw away the first round knockout in his last fight. It was on a couple days' notice. He was like minus 500. Like, it was an auto wins type of spot. But, like, I like Brenner's cardio, his conditioning. He's a shoot-a-box guy, which means you get a little bit of that wild nature. Now, this fight could look a lot like when we've seen shoot-a-box guys go up against Like I think back to flyweight Tyir Ulanbekov took on one, can't remember his name, where a lot of times they are willing to cede control and that works at Orolbai's favor. But as someone in our comments, if we could put it up there, said JSP Onama fight last week, where Pierce had a lot of success with his grappling in that fight, but Onama ended up getting 30-27, I believe, even on a card because of the change that we've kind of seen in the scoring criteria. Now add in the fact that the striker in this fight is going to be Brazil. I really like this fight to go the distance. Now, it is, I'm pretty sure it's juiced. At least it was on other books when I was kind of taking a peek. This fight is, oh, no, it's actually the other way. It's fight to go the distance minus 106. Super interesting. When, like you said, Orolbai is super durable. I feel like Brenner's a dog that's not going to quit. He's not going to tap. I feel like his grappling is up to test to not get submitted. And I think that Brenner's takedown defense could present a bit of an issue from Orolbai. This number feels a little bit rich to me, given the sample we have and given what we've seen Mattybetts struggle with a little bit. And Uros isn't a true welterweight. Like, he's competed at lightweight. I find it really weird that Orolbai is cutting down when he had such a good debut at 170. But if he brings even more strength and size to lightweight, these dudes are in trouble. Lightweight's got their Shavkat, and it might be Mattybetts Orolbai. The way he can just walk forward through punches, take guys down, impose his size and his physicality. I won't be paying minus 265 to find out. And that's kind of why I don't have any action on this fight. Although I'm really intrigued by the goes the distance prop, minus 106. If that's on FanDuel, if I can find it around plus 100, that would get a thumbs up from me. And I think it might be my action on this fight.
Yeah. Orolbai by sub is plus 500, but Elvis Brenner's never been submitted before, and he has 11 submission wins himself.
Right. And we haven't seen that.
Man, I just think he's going to be the stronger, more physical guy, though. That's the challenge I'm having here.
Yeah.
I just think this dude's a monster, bro. I really do. Have you watched the footage on his decision loss back in 2020?
Against whom?
For Orolbai, it was, what's the dude's name? Hold on. Because I need to go back and watch that. But I've watched, it was at ACA Young Eagles 15, Khalid Satayev.
Unanimous.
Who's 13-0.
Good luck. It looks like it was regionally in Kyrgyzstan, so good luck with the potato they probably filmed it on. But maybe it is out there somewhere. But
right.
I try to stick to.
But this dude's 13-0, and he's finishing everybody.
Yeah,
the guy he lost to.
And some of them are very quick retirements, and not all of them submissions. I think Orolbai, his stand-up game might be a little bit underrated entering this, where you just think, oh, he's just going to take him down. I feel like his striking might be a little bit undervalued. This could be a fight of the night type of war between these guys if Brenner can stuff the takedowns, because Orolbai will come forward. He is very durable. I think it's very particularly interesting. Like, I've been a little undecided on my fight of the night. I think I'm going here. I think we're going to get fireworks, and everyone's going to be a little bit surprised by this one.
I kind of want to take both guys on a late submission, bro.
Interesting.
Like Orolbai round 2 sub 16-1, round 3 20-1. Brenner round 2 sub 18-1, round 3 sub 18-1. I think it's going to be a high pace, a lot of grappling, and if one guy gasses, the other guy catches them. Both guys are dangerous by submission. I mean, you can pretty much get 18-1 4 ways there. So you're exposed for 4 units, and you have 18 units of upside.
Yeah.
And obviously not a full unit, but even if you do a quarter unit, times 4, you're exposed for a full unit, and you could win 4.5 units.
Yeah. Because FanDuel is not one of the books. Some books I think out there I've seen have like specific round outcome bets. Like, that's really hard to handicap if you're a book. But like you're saying, just manufacturing with both guys could be interesting. I think in general, Brenner's sub, because of what you said, is undervalued. 11 regional subs. Haven't seen it at all in UFC just because the matchup hasn't required it, right? Where Qute Ladze, it ended up being mostly a striking match. And then in his last fight, quick knockout. Tuhugov fight before that had the striking edge and won a decision that many felt like he shouldn't have. But Tuhugov's also a pretty successful guy. So I think his submission in general is undervalued. And typically when I pass and I'm like, this isn't the spot to take it, that's when it ends up hitting. And that's my concern, is that maybe I leave Brenner sub behind, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
So
Interesting fight for sure.
absolutely, can't wait to see it. Like that, I got that one circled. This one not as much. Women's strawweight, other women's fight on the card here. Yasmin Lucindo taking on Karolina Kowalkiewicz, a 16-year age gap. But realistically, it is biologically possible Karolina could be Lucindo's mom, which is kind of interesting. We've seen Karolina even in title fights before. Lucindo has burst onto the scene and only it raised her expectations since coming in. She's a minus 440 favorite, though. So if you like Lucindo, you're going to have to pay the piper. What are you thinking about this fight, Maddie?
I'm still hurt. My girl Polyana Viana losing to Lucindo.
Yeah.
But no, this girl's very physical, bro. If she can get the takedowns, I think she's gonna have her way here. I think Polyana's pretty solid. Like, she's not elite. She's also not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And she made easy work of her, and that I think it was a second round finish.
Yep.
I don't know. I see a lot of people talk about, Carolina as a decent dog here, but
Sure.
I'm not sure I see it. I think this is another submission prop.
Karolina confuses the heck out of me, bro, because it was not that long ago she went to the ground and got insta-tapped by Jessica Pune, and then, like, retirement fight with Felice Herrig, Silvana Juarez, Gomez, Diana Belbita. Very well. Were you on Karolina against Belbita? Do I remember that right, or did we both take Belbita?
Yeah.
I had that as my fight of the night just because I knew it was going to be a high volume striking match that played right into her hands. I think physicality is a word I had circled in my notes here for this one too, where I feel like Lucindo is a bit of a bully, and it wasn't that long ago when Kowalkiewicz got tapped. I think this number might be a little bit wide just because if it does stay standing, Karolina a lot more experience, but at the same time, she is now entering this unknown age of women's strawweight where we really haven't seen a high level 115er age like this. Like Joanna Jędrzejczyk didn't stick around that long. Carla Esparza didn't stick around that long. Now, as we've really have our first senior citizen in the division, what does it look like? I think it's a good question. My process spot here typically would be Kowalkiewicz by decision, but honestly, I think Lucindo takes her down and she eventually finds a sub here. I like Lucindo by sub in this fight as my preferred method. I think Yasmin's a good parlay piece where UFC is very intentional with this matchup, and I feel like Kowalkiewicz is a little bit overvalued as is. The number is tough. The money line number is tough, but I haven't actually seen what she is by sub. That was just my original gut lean.
Yeah, she's plus 430 by sub and plus 390 by knockout, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because Lucindo has 8 wins by knockout in her MMA career and 3 by sub.
Mm-hmm.
But does she have any? She don't have any finishes outside of the Viana in the UFC, obviously.
Yeah. So
she's getting round 1 and 2 KOs prior to the UFC, but also round 2 subs.
I just am laughing because she entered UFC at 20 years old, so she was literally a teenager regionally. So
yeah.
It's just like it's kind of tough to see what I think her win condition in this fight is a dominant ground game. We've seen Kowalkiewicz not only tapped by Pellé, but Claudia Gadelha got her with a rear naked choke. There's a throwback. Is Gadelha even in UFC anymore? Like, I haven't seen her in forever.
I don't think so.
But another example that this is not a good division to age in. These, especially on the men's side, flyweight, bantamweight, really, really bad to be over 37 years old. Like, the win probability drops considerably. I'm guessing these smaller weight classes in the women's division will follow that trend as we get more data.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this is a tough fight. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I think Lucindo sub, if you get 4-1, take a quarter unit sprinkle on that, call it a day. Not a bad proposition. I'll probably do a half unit just because when they announced this fight, that was my gut lean is, Lucindo's going to give her an arm triangle or a rear naked choke or something like that. Because Kowalkiewicz had demons there. She retired briefly after that Pellé fight. And then we just really haven't seen a matchup since where it would have been an issue where, I like Vanessa Demopoulos well enough. She didn't even secure a takedown in that fight. Felice Herrig never got a takedown, retired immediately after the fight. Like, we haven't seen Kowalkiewicz in a very disadvantageous position. That's my official take on this fight. She will be in a disadvantageous position on Saturday, and I think Lucindo can finish it from there.
Yeah, inside the distance is plus 160.
Yeah. Who would have known? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to say something.
No, I was going to say she lost once by knockout, twice by submission, but she's pretty durable overall, though. She's just streaky. It's just You go the distance with Jan and Grasso, but then you get put out in round one by Andrade, and
Yeah,
so it's just tough to. I don't think I don't think Lucindo will lose this fight though.
yeah.
I mean, she's just the money line's just too high though to play it.
Yeah,
So
Curious plus 110 by points. Weird that's the most likely outcome of the fight, right? Like where
crazy.
I feel like Kowalkiewicz has more decision equity based on her style and if things start to go wrong for
Yeah.
Lucindo. So it's kind of a weird line and maybe there is value there. But we will move on. I know Maddie can't wait to talk about this fight. So I'm intrigued as well. This is the featured prelim here. Joe Anderson Brito taking on Jack Tank Shore. Been a while since we've seen Shore. These guys right outside the rankings at 145 with some pretty good resumes here. I really Brito minus 174 in his home country seems to be a pretty good spot for him. Curious what you think of the line in this fight in general.
Yeah, I mean this is easy. I'm hammering Janderson Brito inside the distance at plus 115.
Yeah.
He's live on the knockout. He's live on the submission. He's gonna be amped up. He's a fucking animal, bro. He's literally an animal. If it goes the distance or he loses, you can have my money. But I ain't missing out on this dude at plus money to get a finish in Brazil. Like I'm hammering it. I'm probably gonna go 3 units on that bet. Plus 115. I have in our Discord, Hayden's on a 5 unit on his money line. He got it at like 150. So I've missed the train on the money line, but this guy is a finisher, man. He's a savage. He finished JSP. He cashed my parlay. I hit big off of Brito, so I gotta keep riding the money right here, bro. He's just I'm a big fan of this guy. I think he follows me on the gram, so shout out to Brito. But I really think he's gonna get this done. I think he's gonna make it look relatively easy.
Yeah, I would tell Hayjive because he's got that 5 unit bomb. He got it minus 135. Cash out, just put all 5 units on inside the distance plus 115 because I'm here to tell you this dude's got no decision equity in this fight whatsoever. So if you like him, take him
Right.
inside the distance.
Right.
What's up? Can you not hear me again? That's okay. I'll roll my spiel here. I wonder. That's interesting. I honestly, Jack Shore, the fight that scares me to death about Jack Shore is the Ricky Simone fight, right? Where his size and his physicality was no match for a guy who competes at 135. But I also think Simone is a better wrestler, even though he's at 135 than Brito is in general. I have been trying to look for a fade spot for Brito because I just know the competition has overvalued him. Lucas Alexander, instant auto sub. The dude just lost to Jekka Seregi. Weston Wilson, maybe the worst pound per pound guy on the roster. He chins Andre Fili, which like we've now seen that a few times. It's not like an alone unknown occurrence. I don't know if Shore's got a ton of power at 145, but I do think he can win minutes here. High volume takedown game, 3.42 attempts per minute, or takedowns per 15 minutes, 40% accuracy. So he's not as efficient as Brito on them, but he's much more voluminous. And I love Jack Shore's striking efficiency, 58% striking accuracy, 57% defense. He's had a lot of like grappling heavy matchups, guys like Makwan and Mirkani, guys like Simone. I think this plays right into his hands. I played Jack Shore decision only here, minus 115. So if there's an early finish, that bet is void, and then I'm out of the way of the
Yeah.
Brito.
I mean that's the way to play it if you're gonna play Shore here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I'm
I
going to play
think
him.
Brito by KO is the shortest number, bro. I think he wants the KO in this matchup. I just think he does. His sub is plus 420 though. It's really hard to not get tempted by that number.
Yeah, I'm going to give the audience a piece of because I have seen nothing but Brito love in this fight. And now the betting line, by the way, is following that. So it is sharp money that's moving that side as well. The Brito Bill Algeo fight is must watch homework before you lay minus 174 on Brito here. I don't think the guy wins minutes. So if you like him, I'd take him inside the distance. But I'm leaning Shore. I already bet Shore decision only. I think I'm going to sprinkle by points in this fight. I'm going with the upset. I think Jack Shore ends up surviving Brito, winning minutes in a great fight, wins the decision here. I just think he's the more efficient minute winner, and I'm intrigued how he looks back at 145, where his cardio could potentially be better.
And that's a good question in the comments. Do you think JSP is a better grappler than Shore?
Even. I mean, like I think what JSP can get a little sloppy, can get a little reckless. I think Shore is he's more tight. He can be more efficient. And I think he's not quite trying to go all out, get the home run position right away. He's much more position over submission. Like, this fight will be more boring, I think, than the JSP one would. And Brito dropped that first round, arguably. Bruce got quite a bit of control time in that first round. It could have gone either way based on striking damage, but really, when he pulled out that guillotine choke, it'd be so funny if he got it again, because I think it's going to be exactly Jack Shore's game plan here too.
I think he can, dude. I can't doubt this man.
I prefer sub to knockout for a Brito,
especially at the number. The plus 420 is on the sub. Because you know me, bro. A guy that's gonna wrestle and come forward against a jiu-jitsu guy that has the grappling, like, I'm taking that sub. Like, I know I already said I'm just hammering the inside the distance because I feel like he wants the knockout. But at the same time, we see what happens when you just come forward and wrestle and shoot and you're relentless. And Brito has 15 minutes to catch you.
Yep. And I think he is. I think he's the much more dangerous athlete too.
Brad.
We're having technical difficulties. So just quickly, I'm going to summarize model results here for the audience. I modeled this out. Joe Anderson, Brito, 52.4% to win, so not showing value against the money line. Most likely outcome, Shore by decision, 32.9% of the time. I've got Brito sub, more likely than knockout, 18.3 to 17.1, and then basically exactly 50-50 on the fight to go the distance or not. So I think there's a clear dynamic in this fight. Brito inside the distance, and maybe I play Shore in those decision markets. Maybe I hit everything and see if I get a void on an early Brito finish, or potentially I get the Shore decision outcome. So let's hop up onto the main card here when Matty can hear me again.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't mind that at all, bro.
I think it's just a clear dynamic in the fight. And so I want to cover my bases as many as I can. So we'll take a look here. The moment that the audience has been waiting for, Matty's going to have like a pro wrestling spiel here to get our audience.
There we go.
Kyle Borralho taking on Paul Craig. I wonder by the face paint on Matty's face what he's thinking in this fight. There's just no way to possibly tell. So I will give you the floor. The soapbox is yours. Paul Craig by knockout, your methodology.
Here's what I have to say. I've already placed a bet on the Hard Rock app. I'm here in Florida. And what I can say right now is my bet. I'm gonna read it to you. The exact bet and the exact payout. And everyone in the chat is gonna tell me I'm a fucking lunatic, but I don't care. I'm riding with my guy Paul Craig, and guess what? It's not his money line. It's not his submission. It is by KO/TKO. And this bet is $5,400 to win $100,000 as the payout. Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, ground and pound. It's coming. It's coming. Kyle is not dangerous. He could definitely win this fight by decision. But Paul Craig, let's not forget, he's a 205er. He still has the strength. He's been working on his striking the last 2 years. He has his kicks. He can get ground and pound. We saw that in the Andre Muniz fight.
Yep.
We saw the fluke KO in the Jamal Hill fight where it should have been a sub. We see all the time these scenarios where grapplers get knockouts and vice versa. And you're giving me 18-1 odds on this knockout because you're going to get a massive number. Bro, even the submission is 10-1 because he's a 4-1 underdog. So any world where you can get Paul Craig by sub at 10-1, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
But this is not a bet that anyone even watching needs to tail. Like, you can say, oh, Matt's crazy. This is more of an intuition bet for me. Paul Craig interviewed said he's getting the knockout. You can take that for what it's worth. But he said he wants to prove it with his striking. He wants to get a knockout. And his trainer, DM me on Instagram, said he wants the knockout. And if he gets it, he's coming on the podcast, the Show Me the Money podcast next week. So I have $5,400 to win $100,000 riding on Paul Craig by knockout. And I have a bet with Moicano and Gilbert. And if that bet doesn't hit, I have to take a leg kick from Dorino. So I'm not too. I'm definitely honestly. I don't know if I would prefer losing $5,000 or getting a leg kick because it's pretty close.
Yeah. I certainly think that your take was interesting. My general thesis on this fight is that Caio Borralho is overvalued as a minus 620 favorite. Like, you go back and watch his fight against Makhmuradov, he got reversed in that fight. He was controlled quite a bit in that fight. And like you said, Paul Craig, a former 205er, leveled competition significantly in his direction. You forget he was fighting guys like Nikita Krylov, like Uzdemir, but he's come down and debuted at middleweight with two tougher guys than Borralho's ever faced. Andre Muniz, Brendan Allen. So Craig has a lot of things aiming in his direction. My model couldn't ignore it. I've got Borralho at just minus 140 here, which means I would never in a million years consider laying minus 620 of some sort. Now, the concern for me is that I just don't know how Craig gets it done other than what Maddie's genesis or thesis is, which is a knockout on his feet. And there are rumors that Craig's striking is better than we give it credit for because a lot of times he's trying to pull guard play into his strengths. Maybe that's not his relative strength in this fight. Maybe it is his power. I think he's a little bit larger of a guy than Caio is, which hasn't been the case in a Borralho fight so far. I wanted to hear you out because I saw you were on it after I ran my model that exact same day. And I'm like, man, Maddie and I might end up on the same side here. I don't know why I'm having such a tough time pulling the trigger. Maybe I do money line, but the thing I've got to really think about is maybe I do inside the distance. Cause like, do I think Craig has decision equity here? Probably not. Craig has submission equity. I don't know how high it is. Maybe he's got knockout equity. We saw the TKO against Muniz. Similar type of matchup to Muniz, no, where there doesn't appear to be a ton of striking danger. Now, Borralho dropped who'd he fight in his last? Abus Magomedov, but that was in the third round. We know Abus is a historical gasser, right? Like, so I don't know how much that played into whether Abus was just tired or Caio actually has decent power on his feet. Craig has felt 205 power, so I have a hard time finding where I'm going to be on this fight. I think the end genesis might be a very small dart at Paul Craig inside the distance, just so I don't have to root against you. I think there is no doubt you have hunted a value proposition in this line. The actual odds of it hitting and avoiding a Dorino leg kick just might not be very high.
Yeah, I think the implied probability of the knockout is like 5 or 6% or something.
Yeah. That makes I've got it 5.7%. So
it's hitting, bro. It's hitting. Just remember that.
I mean, you're not that far off, at least. Like, it's not a bad value bet. It's just an interesting. I wish you took Craig like money line or inside the distance or something for your bet with Dorino because they would have given it to you if you just take
the gambling gods favor the bold. Just remember that you can't play it safe in this scenario. I'm going with my gut instinct.
Yeah,
Borralho has not done nobody can change my mind. The bet's in. I had to get Hard Rock just to fucking manually raise the limit on that bet for me to get it in, bro.
Wow.
Because they like limit my UFC props now. So like I have to like text my betting host and be like, hey, can you raise this one? And then they have to manually approve it because they don't want like too much exposure on the long shots. But I mean, that's what happens when you hit a 46,000 and a 30,000. Now like my account's not limited, but it's like everything that I can manually approve and shit is weird.
Yeah. I just think, when you look at Borralho, what has he done to deserve it? He's a larger favorite here than Brendan Allen was against Paul Craig. Like, are we out of our minds here that when you look at Borralho hasn't even faced a ranked guy? I don't even know. The best guy he's faced in a vacuum by record was Michal Oleksiejczuk. But what's the book out on Oleksiejczuk? If you can get him down,
he doesn't have grappling.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like everyone else, Makhmuradov was subbed by Gerald Mearshart. Like, the context clues look like a Borralho inside the distance win here. What's actually on paper does not show that.
And look at Armin Petrosian, bro. He beats Armin Petrosian, and then Armin goes out and gets subbed in round 1 against Rodolfo Vieira.
Yeah.
Caio's just not a finisher at the end of the day.
Yep.
I think Craig's kind of his kryptonite, like, because you can't really control Paul Craig without being in danger. So then it's going to be, I don't know, bro. I just think the number's crazy. We'll see what happens. The ground and pound's going to be live if Paul gets like a full mount position. And then I think the kicks are live.
I will say this. In your opinion, who is the least picked against Brazilian fighter of these minus 500 something favorite? Who's the one that everyone's most confident in?
Caio.
I think it's Caio too. Everywhere I've heard, everybody
Yeah.
I've talked
what
to.
are the other options? What are the other options?
Well, so we'll talk about Michel Pereira, Vitor Petrino in fights to come, but we talked about
Michel does not deserve to be a minus 600 or 700 favorite either. That's asinine.
Oh, okay, perfect transition. Let's talk about that fight next. Then Michel Pereira taking on Ihor Poterya.
The next slide, Brad.
At middleweight.
Next slide.
Yeah, we'll go.
Damn,
we'll go
keyboard's not working. 1 second. There we go.
We got to get you guys some air conditioning or something so you down in South Florida your gizmos aren't frying. But Michel Pereira minus 670 favorite. He is currently the largest favorite on the card on FanDuel here.
Ridiculous.
He's been on a crazy run at middleweight. Now he's taking on Ihor Poterya. I can't wait to tell you what my model returned for this fight because it's very intriguing to me. I'm not surprised by the betting line, even though it is a little bit of a sticker shock type of situation. Do you think it's ridiculous enough that you would pull the trigger on Ihor Poterya in this fight?
You know, he's made me money before. The problem I have, this is like this. This is such a sell spot on Michel just because like he could not have looked better in his last two fights. Like round 1 rear naked choke, which if we're being honest, that was pretty much a KO, TKO on the feet first. And then Andre Petroski is terrible on the feet, just terrible.
Yep.
You know, so I was high on Mikel, like that's my guy. I like Olazechuk.
Yep.
So I do think that's a really good win. Maybe it was just a really well-timed body shot that kind of put him down, right?
Yep.
The problem is Michel, correct me if I'm wrong, but these guys were 3 weight classes apart at one point. Right?
Yeah, they were because Pereira was at 170 and Poterya was as heavy as 205, at least in UFC.
So just think about it logically here. A guy that fought at 205 versus a guy that fought at 170, and the guy that fought at 205 is what? 4-1 underdog. I mean, that's crazy. Now, granted, there's context there. Michel should have never been fighting at 170. He's a monster at this weight class.
Right.
And, you know, Ihor at the same time isn't a 205er, right?
Yep.
So there's definitely context there, but Ihor's good on the feet, man. He's solid. He's nothing to laugh at here. Michel's not really there to be hit, which is the problem in this matchup.
Yep.
His movement's so good, and bro, like this dude's kind of like on a run for the belt at this point. Like if he racks up some more finishes, like he's kind of like a superstar in the making here, bro. So that's the problem I have with this fight. But like the odds are ridiculous. Like they're so ridiculous at minus 670. I wonder what the over is because I feel like the over is going to have value, even though it's going to be scary as shit. Like just based off of Michel getting 2 round 1 finishes and people think he's like invincible now. I wonder what the over 1.5 is here. I need to take a look at that.
Yeah, it's curious you say that because my model's reading kind of plays into that over, and I might play the over rather than
plus 126 on the over.
Ooh, interesting.
If we see the regular Michel who's moving around and not going crazy and not finishing dudes early, like this fight's going over because he's durable.
Yeah.
You know, so I think over 1.5. It's a scary ass bet, but I think it has a ton of value at plus 125.
Yeah. So, in lieu of now, my model is designed that I would never in a million years would lay 6.7 units on Pereira to win one. Like that's an absolutely asinine thing to do in UFC. You're picking up pennies in front of a bulldozer. So my model's designed to not show value on numbers this large. However, Pereira is the largest favorite that I have ever charted in my model, 75.5% of the time. And that's minus 310, which I think would be more appropriate, like as far as if I was going to bet this fight straight.
That's a spot on number.
That's what I would put it at. So he's a tough sell. I parlayed him back when he was minus 400, so it was a much more palatable number. But I think Ihor Poterya loved the last win. I actually cashed Poterya in that fight, like money line. But Robert Britchik was making his UFC debut. Doesn't even appear to have any sort of kickboxing expertise. He's just a boxer. He was only using his hands. Poterya was the more variable striker there, was able to mix things up and have success with that. It was a good win, and Poterya is probably a buy because he's in good shape now, right? Like he has really worked on his conditioning to get to 185 and make it down, well, almost down. You see on our graphic, he missed weight and was 187 in his last fight. So the TBD on the weight cut, but you're right that Pereira now is experiencing a guy that maybe has 205 power. The only reservations for me, he couldn't put Bricek out, cutting down in weight, and Pereira hasn't shown any vulnerability with durability whatsoever. His only loss by KO in UFC was a disqualification against Diego Sanchez. Excellent 58% striking defense. Like you said, huge speed advantage here. The problem that I can't decide mentally is if I want to go with my model, which likes Pereira to win 31.7% of the time by decision, most likely outcome in the fight. We had a couple of comments that were saying, hey, Ihor trained with Michal. Maybe there's familiarity there. Maybe we get a longer Pereira where we go over 1.5 rounds. But I also think the submission is very, very live when Poterya has a 57% takedown defense. We've seen him vulnerable by sub before. Embarrassed to say I played Shogun Hua by submission long, long ago in Poterya's other UFC win. I am modeling Pereira with the over as a good lean here. But I think he's going to be steps ahead of Ihor. And this is a tough ask because he's fighting Pereira on short notice himself, which is a difficult position if these guys versus had a full camp with each other. Money line is garbage, but I think there are good angles to attack Pereira here. And I have a very strong conviction in him to win.
Yeah. Yeah, Michelle's never been knocked out. I think the one TKO loss was an illegal knee, right?
Yeah, against Diego Sanchez. Yeah, it was one of the dumbest illegal strikes.
I mean, he's so durable, bro. You know what's crazy is Ihor has 7 submissions.
Really? I never would have guessed that given how he's defended.
Yeah, he has 7 submission wins.
This guy's
unbelievable. Wild. Random ass subs. Heel hook back in 2018. Fucking rear naked choke in 2019.
Honestly, I think that boosts the decision angle a lot. If Poterya is able to stay safe in these positions.
I just don't. The problem is the odds suck, but I just don't know how Ihor wins. You're not really knocking out a guy like Michel, but Ihor does have some power. He is a big guy. I don't know what to do this fight. I probably just don't even touch it. I probably take the over 1.5 and close my eyes.
I like the over 1.5 here too. I think that Pereira, it's a big spot. He wants to get this win. It's a big win. And by the way, the progress he's made at 185, it goes backwards if he loses by KO in the first round here, right? Like he's not any closer to a title here. Might play it safe on short notice.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next slide here.
Yeah. So let's take a look here. Third to last fight on the card. Another heavy Brazilian favorite. Shocker, go figure there. Vitor Petrino just entered the rankings in his last fight, taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith. Anthony has never lost. He just wasn't his night, right? 39 pro fights. We've seen him ups, downs, contending for a UFC title, telling Johnny Walker that he hurt his family. All sorts of different Anthony Smith dynamics here. I think Petrino's an interesting prospect at just 26 himself here. Definitely a changing of the guard potential type of fight, but does Lionheart have one more in him? That is my question to you, Matty Tanner.
Anthony Smith's kind of been through the ringer here. He's taken a lot of damage, but is Vitor Petrino really on the level of just like starching a vet like this? Because I just don't know that the answer is yes. And I kind of lean, Petrino by points here at plus 230.
Okay.
Because the KO seems like the trap. Plus 110.
Yeah.
Anthony Smith just got finished, but Khalil Roundtree is very high level, and it took the late in round 3 for him to get him out of there. I think Khalil's on a different level than Petrino right now, but Petrino's just a little more raw and young, right? So I think this is another fight where you might look at the over. Is it 1.5 or 2.5? The over 1.5 is minus 200, so that's a little scary there on the juice. But I do kind of lean the over here. I think we could see maybe even like a 30-27 or a 29-28 where Petrino's just younger and Anthony Smith doesn't have much left, but he just kind of hangs on to the scorecards is kind of how I see this fight going.
Did you say that analysis intentionally? Because I noted in Discord when I gave Petrino out in a parlay, I said I've got a higher grade on him as a well-rounded MMA fighter than I do Khalil Roundtree. So I was wondering if you gave that out like specifically. I think the wrestling
No.
upside would be a problem for Roundtree if those two met, because Khalil's had trouble defending takedowns. Petrino seems decently durable at this point. I think decision's not a horrible angle here. I wish it just wasn't such a relevant one when he just is coming off a decision against Pedro in his last fight. I feel really
Yeah,
comfortable.
and dude, they were just trigger shy. Like they were just two big guys, powerful striking,
Yeah,
and Pedro was retiring. He didn't want to fucking get flatlined right before he retired,
yeah,
and they were just like content with like just like low volume affair. But I don't think Petrino's gonna really respect the power of Anthony Smith at this age coming back. Like I think it's more about like defend the takedowns, don't do anything stupid.
yeah.
I don't know.
I feel Anthony has been a guy that's always been tough for me. I backed him in his fight against Johnny Walker just because I thought, for once he had some defensive efficiency advantages. Just you look negative 1.26 striking success rate. He's usually on the wrong end per minute. 48% takedown defense isn't very good. I feel like it's gotten worse since we've seen Anthony in recent fights where he seems just slower. He seems less athletic. Now, I feel very comfortable with where I am at this fight, which is where I have 2 units exposed to Petrino in a parlay. By the way, I have Pereira in that same one. But anything I do here will be hedged out with the caveat of I think Lionheart is decently live for a submission off his back. I
Dude, I was just gonna say
I
he's
think it's my
plus 1,300 by sub, bro.
Yeah, and that's an easy number. I don't have to pick around. I can put a quarter unit on it, and I can hedge out of whatever Petrino activity I decide to take, because I think it is
Yeah.
quite literally only Smith has not shown the power recently to put down and out a guy like Petrino, and he didn't even in his last knockout of Jimmy Crute. It was a broken leg situation. It wasn't even like a one punch and go. I feel like off his back sub is Smith's one path to win here. So I can just quarter unit hedge out whatever I decide to do on Petrino. I really like Petrino, man. I think he fights behind his jab well. I think physically he's one of the most gifted guys in the division. Totally
Yeah.
surprised me in his debut and has continued to against Prachnio, against Pedro, to have this wrestling element in his back pocket. 68% accuracy on his takedowns. Like he just decides he's going to shoot, and guys can't stop it because he's too big and he's too strong. Smith doesn't defend takedowns well anyway.
Yeah.
I don't hate a points angle here where Smith's throwing stuff up off his back, it doesn't hit, and Petrino ends up winning by decision.
No, I'm with you.
So
all right, let's go to the next slide, Brad. I'm gonna give me 30 seconds, bro. I gotta run to the restroom. Just give them a breakdown in the next fight, and I'll be back in 30 seconds.
you bet. Maddie is taking a break here as we go to the co-main event of the evening. The King of Rio is back. Jose Aldo taking on Jonathan Martinez, the Dragon, a ranked guy here in this bantamweight division. I can't wait for Maddie's take on this fight, because a fight where I've heard a couple of different angles to this. The last time we saw Jose Aldo, it was not an uncompetitive decision against Merab Dvalishvili. Guy, did he not? He knocked Rob Font down twice. I don't actually remember if he did get the finish in that one. No, it went to a decision. Pedro Munoz ended up getting win over Cheeto Vera. Like, this guy's resume is historic. Last 2 losses to Piotr Jan and Merab. And now he comes back at 37. It's in his building in Rio. And the question is Jonathan Martinez well-rounded enough to take advantage of that? I'm just laughing at the commentary. Maddie taking a bathroom break. But Jonathan Martinez, a minus 166 favorite here, bro. A little bit of a surprising line. Martinez has been as small as like minus 120. If you look back a couple weeks ago, he's definitely taken some juice here. This is a weird matchup to give the King of Rio in a return fight. I think we get an explosive outcome here one way or another. I'm just curious where you're leaning in this fight between Martinez and Aldo.
Bro, I don't know why the UFC gave him Jonathan Martinez in Rio, because this is a really hard fight.
Yeah.
A really, really hard fight. And you know what's crazy? Is Martinez's leg kicks are just on a different level as far as accuracy and power.
Yep.
And everyone's saying like, oh, Jose Aldo can deal with the leg kicks and outbox him. But have you gone back and looked? Like, actually, Hey Jive put out a great video
Yeah.
showing that Jose Aldo takes a lot of leg kicks, like over his last however many fights. Like, he actually gets a lot of leg kicks, or he's getting kicked a lot to the leg, right?
Yep.
Obviously, he has good leg kicks himself, but I just don't think any human can really take a ton of those Jonathan Martinez leg kicks. Like, he's really good, bro. I know Adrian Yanez isn't really high level, but he made him look silly with those leg kicks.
Yeah.
And I'm picking Jonathan Martinez here to win the fight. He's younger. Jose Aldo going from boxing back to, MMA and a retirement back to MMA, and it's just like I just think Martinez is really good. I really do believe in him. I won't be shocked if this fight goes the distance though, and somehow Jose Aldo gets it done. But Martinez, man, I like Saeed Nurmagomedov. That was to me a very impressive win.
Yep.
And the Cub Swanson, Yanez, you can say what you want about those, but he was able to finish those fights with leg kicks.
Yeah.
Brad.
Um, I think that, interestingly enough, one of the sharpest guys I talked to, shout out my guy Calf Kick Zach. If you don't follow him, do so on Twitter. I DM him all the time because he's trained at the MMA lab, semi-pro kickboxer. Like, he understands this stuff a lot better than I do. One of his most confident plays of the entire year here is Jonathan Martinez, and it's kind of tough to be like confident against Jose Aldo because he's been so responsible defensively, 60%. This just feels like the young buck against the guy that is coming out of retirement. Like, is coming out of retirement because this fight's in Rio good enough motivation to go in there and beat a ranked guy like Jonathan Martinez? Like, that's a really scary proposition to me, and like when I modeled this out, I've got Martinez at minus 155. That value is left the station from a money line perspective, but weirdly enough, I've got him 31.2% likely to win by knockout. So I'm leading violence in this fight. I think fight to not go the distance plus 168 is a good number if Aldo ends up being just levels above him, as well as I've got the Martinez value showing. I show value on plus 168 to not go the distance, and then Martinez by knockout here, plus 400, and I've got it at much shorter than that if I do a little bit of math here.
Yeah,
Plus
that's a
220.
really that's a really that's a really good number, bro. And do you lean 2-3 or 1-2? Because I kind of like 2-3.
I think it'd be 2-3. I think that the pace of this fight could be measured early as both of these guys get their reads. But I think Hajib's video is very appropriate. To me, I'm surprised that people feel like Aldo has excellent leg kick defense. I feel like Pedro Munoz was able to chew up his leg a little bit. I have a stronger take that it's much more the other direction than strong leg kick defense. I feel like even the way he checks kicks, it's still absorbed, and it's a huge dynamic in this fight. But Martinez, don't ignore his hands. Like, Martinez, his hands and his higher kicks are also really elite. Showed
Yeah.
grappling defense upside. I don't think there'll be much grappling in this fight at all, which is another reason why I like it to go the distance. I don't know how much this is worth because Piotr Jan did a lot of damage to all those peripherals, but Jonathan Martinez plus 0.88 striking success rate, Jose Aldo negative 0.17. I just don't know how conducive to winning Aldo's patient point fighting counter striking style is in 2024. That's just my concern.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Martinez. I'm gonna go round 2-3 KO
Yeah,
plus 1300 plus 1700. It's making my card.
yeah,
I have to do it. It sucks doing it. Everyone's gonna hate it, but it's the game we play, bro. I'm trying to make money. I hate going against Jose Aldo, but let's. I think that's gonna hit. I won't be shocked if it goes a distance, but man, I don't like laying minus 160 against Aldo either.
yeah.
I'd,
That's
ra-
some
I'd,
of
ra-
that's some
I'd
of
rather
the
just take the long shot props.
that's some of the reason I think why we're getting a little bit of value on Martinez's finishing props is we don't really want to see Jose Aldo in Rio go out that way. But you and I were talking before the show. We were in Canada earlier this year in January. Like, one Canadian fighter won. Like, even Mike Malott got finished in the third round by Neil Magny. Like, these are not automatic scheduled wins, and even if they are, sometimes the fighters can't deliver. So
Yeah.
I think they gave Aldo a decent enough opponent. I don't know why they didn't just give him a guy with poor hands, maybe like a Ricky Simone or something like that, where his takedown defense would have been able to help guide him to a win. Martinez is a brutal matchup for him, dude. He's a brutal matchup.
Yeah. And
So
Max Holloway finished Aldo twice in round 3. ground and
Yeah,
pound. Which that's all the way back in 2017, but that's still interesting.
yeah,
The round three, and then obviously Peter Yan round five. But
yeah.
yeah,
And
bro. I
finally,
mean, the Rob Font fight. You know, Rob Font he wins a decision. Pedro Munoz decision.
mhm.
Cheeto Vera decision. I mean, those are good wins though. It's tough. It really is. I just think it comes down to this: can Jonathan Martinez land a few of those leg kicks flushed? Because I don't care who it is, bro. Those are fucking. Even Adrian Yanez was saying, like, dude, those leg kicks are so powerful and so accurate.
Yep.
And if you can't stop those, do you think either guy would shoot a takedown? And who do you think would be more likely to?
Aldo for sure. Martinez showed some susceptibility to that outside of the rankings, but the Said Nurmagomedov fight was pretty encouraging data that he's
100%.
improved that. Said got 3 takedowns, but he attempted 9, so the defense was not bad from Martinez that day.
Bro, Saeed is the real deal. I
I
mean, I'm
think
not
so.
sure. I'm not sure Jose Aldo would beat Saeed like today.
Yeah, me neither. Especially the length would be a problem. Like Said, yeah, Said's just. You remember that fight Said had with Said Yukub Kakramanov, where like Kakramanov was taking him down over and over again, and then he just said enough with this and grabbed his
I
neck.
won on
Like,
that. I won.
yeah,
I won the submission prop on that. That was a sick fight. That reminds me of the Jonas and Brito JSP round 2 sub.
which you're not getting because Jack Shore is winning by decision. But I will move on as I get boos from the crowd. Let's talk about this main event.
Next slide.
I don't know if we don't have it, I'll share it out on social media. Back in January, I took a future Steve Erceg 45-1. I was met with a chorus of WTFs from the chat. You guys there. Here's Steve Erceg is with a chance to wear UFC gold for the first time. Such an interesting fight. What an interesting rise for Astrovo. It's really like a Rocky type of story. The question is, can he complete it? Can he beat a guy in Alexandre Pantoja who has a lot of skill, a lot of really positive assets himself? I think we are in for a great main event, even though it's a second straight flyweight guy here. Curious to what you're thinking because I did my absolute best to just listen to my model, not let the bias of my ticket impact me here.
Yeah, I hate this fight, bro. Like a part of me thinks it's a golden opportunity for Steve Erceg. I mean, we see guys that only fight 3, 4, 5 times in the UFC and go right to the belt. They typically win. It's
Yep.
crazy. He's a younger guy. He's taking less damage. Has probably a bigger reach, better boxing.
Mhm.
But again, Pantoja's a dog. I could see Pantoja getting a sub if he were to win.
Yeah.
I think Erceg's grappling's decent though, and I think he can kind of stay at bay and just kind of piece him up a little bit on the feet. I don't think Erceg's gonna like starch him, but I could see him maybe edging out a decision. I don't know what to do with this fight though. I'm not confident whatsoever on anything. I don't love minus 200 plus on Pantoja, but
Yeah.
Pantoja's also battle tested. Like he's fought the best of the best.
100%.
So I'm curious to hear what your model likes.
Yeah, so like you said, this has been a weirdly historically profitable spot when guys have less than 3 UFC fights get a title shot. Holly Holm, of course, the knockout. Alex Pereira, the knockout. Like back in the day, Anderson Silva, different era of UFC. But it's weird. It's something. I think it's because UFC can identify special. And like I thought Erceg from his early peripherals was very special as well. The way on short notice he ragdolled David Dvorak was intriguing. Alessandro Costa, we talked about him earlier, tough matchup for him, ends up getting it done. And then Matt Schnell was his most convincing win yet. That's the reason he's here, not Muhammad Makayev, right?
That left hook was sick, bro.
Yeah. And like he has great boxing fundamentals. The way he can roll with his shoulders and avoid punches is very Topuria-esque in this 125 division. Um the thing about that, I think why people think Erceg can win. And by the way, he was plus 190 on Sunday. He's plus 154 now. He's taking sharp money. Is because Pantoja we know isn't perfect. Like his head defense, sometimes he was taking flush punches from Moreno, from Brandon Royval. We know the cardio isn't amazing. Like he's often breathing out of his mouth 1.5 rounds, 2 rounds in, and then he just fights this zombie second win, and he's been able to drag those guys down with takedowns. Steve Erceg, 77% takedown defense, better than Moreno and Royval. And that's an interesting dynamic of what does Pantoja look like if he can't get those desperate takedowns to recover the gas tank. And my model here, I got Erceg at plus 130, so I'm showing value here, even though not like straight picking him to win the fight, saying he should be favored. I think the betting number is still a little bit too wide when you look at Erceg plus 0.93 striking success rate, Pantoja just 0.42. Erceg's been very efficient with his grappling so far, about even on the submission volume, even though Pantoja's best moments, like Alex Perez, like I forget who else he choked out from the back as well. He had a couple of back takes in a row. Do you remember the other one? Perez and
Yeah,
I
it
forget the
was
other.
Royval, right? Or no, that was yeah, Royval was back in 2021.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, it was Royval. It was Royval where he got the back takes. Like, I think Erceg is incredibly live in all areas here. I see this fight pretty even. Um, my model doesn't do great with 5 rounders because its data is based usually on mostly 3 round fights. That's the majority we get in UFC. I've got this 60.1% to go the distance. I would rather see that as 60.1% to start round 4 because it's for 3 rounds. That's the way it's designed.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting length here. Maybe you play Erceg late, and I kind of lean submission. My model
Bro,
intent
I'm so glad you just
is
said that.
knockout.
I'm so
Um,
glad you just said that.
but I just think Erceg's submission volume we actually really haven't seen a lot of yet so far. Whereas Pantoja, I talked about maybe he gets desperate for some of these takedowns, puts himself in a bad spot, and Erceg is able to find the back. And we really haven't seen Moreno's got a little bit of grappling, Royval not very much at all. Erceg is really I think his size is a huge dynamic in that Pantoja's been able to be the hammer. He's been able to be the bully. Erceg is really big if his cardio can hang on with Pantoja.
Yeah.
I think this is a great fight.
Yeah, and I don't think Ursig's gonna be able to sub him just like out of pure skill. Like I think he's gonna have to like soften him up with strikes and
Yeah.
maybe ground and pound or something. But bro, you know what's funny is Ursig's 6 submissions in his MMA career, only 2 knockouts. When just you would think it's the opposite, right? Just based off of how he fights.
Yep.
But he has mounted guillotine chokes, rear naked chokes, arm triangles. Like again, I think he's gonna have to really inflict damage to get himself in a position to get those submissions. But it's 13-1, bro. And it's a 5 round fight. You know, when you're getting 13-1 on a submission on a 5 round fight,
Yeah.
I think it's live. I really do. I'm glad you brought that up. I think there's a possibility that he could. And, you know, the other thing I like is the fact that if Pantoja is getting beat up, the fact that he's so tough physically allows the submission to be live versus like a TKO.
Yep. I already laid Ersteg plus 190 money line. I still am really working through the weeds on what the potential props I'd want to put on here, if any at all. But I so agree with that sentiment from you. I think Ersteg late is an interesting proposition. So, yeah, like I think that Pantoja. Interestingly, we got it. You know, Pantoja's taken a lot of damage over the year. He has been in a lot of wars, especially in these title settings. Ersig's pretty fresh. It's weird how good he is when Pantoja trains at ATT and Erceg is just kind of like a small family gym in Australia. It's the weirdest thing in the world that he's this good. But um, I
Yeah.
the other thing, the last thing I want to say on this fight before maybe we move on, I feel like all the pressure in this fight is on Alexandre Pantoja. Erceg is number 10. He's 3 fights into his UFC career. He's 28. He could realistically be back here. This is 34-year-old defending his belt in his native Rio. That's a lot of pressure in one spot, and sometimes pressure can cause adrenaline dumps and unexpected uses of energy. He goes super hard for an early finish. If it doesn't come, maybe Erceg can get him late.
Yeah. I agree, bro. I agree. He's just the younger guy, less damage. I mean, Pantoja is a savage, though, bro. We could look really stupid here.
Yeah,
There's a
we could.
100% chance we could look stupid if Pantoja just takes him down and subs him. It's just,
Yeah.
you know,
I
which
don't
is definitely a possibility.
I have zero regrets now. I got Erceg 2 units plus 190. I have zero regrets about that based on where my model sits and the way the line is moved. If he ends up not winning it, not being ready, so be
Yeah.
it. The question for me will become, how do I go about hedging my Erceg ticket if he ends up getting the belt here and probably has one more defense in 2024 against I don't know who? Like, do I hedge it? Do I let it ride? It would be a heck of a question.
If he wins, you're saying?
Yeah, because I've got 45 to 1 end of year champion
If
already.
he wins, though, he's going to be favored in whoever he fights next. So you're going to have a good opportunity if you want to hedge. But I think you're
That's
right.
true.
I mean, at 45 to 1, you can fucking comfortably put just 5 units on the other side if you wanted to.
Yeah. Good question in chat. If Erceg was against Royval or Moreno, who are you taking? I think Fortis is broken. Moreno. I think Moreno gets stomped by any of these three guys. We saw that with Royval in Mexico a few weeks ago. Royval against Erceg is interesting. I think Steve's wrestling though would win out. Just Moreno didn't commit to it, but he was still getting taken down pretty easily. Royval's takedown defense is like 44%. I think I'd take Steve. It's one of the reasons why I bet him is because like I thought just matchup wise, Pantoja was probably his hardest matchup, and even now we're talking about ways he has to win.
Agreed.
So, all
Build a
right, Maddie.
parlay.
Let's build a parlay. We've been doing a safe one and a fun one. I like that mix up here. Like, by the way, last week's parlay, I'm so glad it didn't just die on that Kyle Machado decision because it was close. I would have been heartbroken
Yeah.
if it died on
But
that.
we hit the one the week before, though.
A couple
Right?
weeks ago. Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where we got him rolling. But how about a fun one for UFC 301? That'd be a fun one to hit
I
for.
mean, you already know what I want in the parlay. In the
We'll
fun
talk.
one,
We'll
bro.
talk about it. So let's do a safe one first here.
right.
What are you thinking for like a safe one as we keep this in like the
Yeah.
300?
Let's go Drakkar Close.
Yep, that was the first name I was going to throw at you.
All right.
Let's take a look. Any particular totals we were looking at?
We were looking at over 1.5 in the Michelle fight, right?
Yeah, you want to throw that in the parlay? I like it.
I mean, it's plus money, so it's not really quote unquote safe, but it's up to you.
It's like plus 126 though. It's not like a super long leg. So let me go to your round.
I've been cleaning up on the prelims, bro. I got to
Should we do
figure my
prelims?
shit out because I win so much money in the prelims, and then it goes south on the main card. So let me see if I can find another prelim play here.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think about John Silva money line minus 130?
I'm in. Yeah. All right. So it's at plus 169 between those two.
Okay.
Um,
Do we just grab?
One more leg. Let's go.
I'm looking at this fight to start round. What do you
I
think?
mean, I wouldn't even have a problem putting Jonathan Martinez in there.
Oh, just like yeah. I mean, because I think there is a chance Aldo does survive, even though I lean inside the distance. I think money line is a better play. So Martinez.
I mean, we don't have to put that in the parlay, though. What else
Plus
do you
330.
like?
I mean, Silva close Martinez plus 330. We both agree really heavily on all three of those.
Yeah. All right, let's
So,
do it.
yeah, so is my model. So okay, so we're just gonna do money lines. Keep it simple this week. The judges might make it not so simple, but we're gonna do John Silva money line minus 130. We're gonna do what did we just say? Jonathan Martinez money line minus 166. Drakkar Close money line minus 192. Throw those together, it's about 3.3 to 1 on FanDuel. So nice little payout if those guys end up all getting it done. And good way to get Martinez and Close involved when the number isn't ideal. And we're a little bit muddy about the method of victory, especially for Close, right?
Yeah.
So good one there. All right, Maddie.
All right, I'm going Paul Craig inside the distance. I know you'll at least agree with that.
I'm with you there.
All right, so that's going to be plus 650 on FanDuel.
Okay.
So Paul give me a second. Give me a second leg, and that'll be our.
Yeah, I'm taking
one.
a look at my. I said we always still want to be aligned. Like we don't want to go against each other in this if we're both going to lay it. I'm looking for the double chance on Craig.
There was a good submission that was at like 5 to 1.
Oh, hey, how about this? What do you think about our girl Ernesta by decision plus 310?
Yeah, let's do it.
All righty. Oh, it's plus 320. I don't care that it's moving against us. That's 30 to 1. So
30 to 1. Sign me up for that, bro.
30 to 1. Paul Craig inside the distance and Ernesta by decision. I like that a lot. Ernesta is our girl. We were on Ivana last week. We're on Ernesta this week. We'll keep taking these lanky girls from Eastern Europe and see if it keeps paying.
I mean, bro, 30 to 1 pays for every loss and 10 times over.
Yeah, I mean, like full disclosure, I put 0.1 unit on the fun show parlay every week. Like I'm not out here high rolling it. Now Maddie might put a band on it, but it's one of those things. It's 30 to 1 for a reason. You always want to wager responsibly, et cetera, et cetera. So, fun show parlay, traditional show parlay, we're all wrapped up. You have any thoughts before we send these guys on their way to UFC 301 to build their cards?
Don't forget to bet Paul Craig by knockout, 18-1.
Yeah.
Don't say I didn't tell you.
Yeah. Paul Craig, it would be legendary. It would be absolutely legendary. I'm taking him inside the distance because I do see value there, and I just don't want to be on the other side. I don't want to see you take a leg kick from Dorino more than anything. That the money will come and go. The leg kick may result in the hospital trip if we're not careful. So
Yeah, I asked the chat. I was like, should I take a calf kick or should I take it higher? And Dorino was like, bro, he's like, the calf kick I could hit like a nerve. He's like, let's do it up top. So it's like right here, bro. I'm taking it right here on the, what's it called, the quad.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, like it's still gonna hurt, but that's like
it's gonna, bro. So after the show, he kicked me at like 5%.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in like crazy pain. It was only 5%, but you can just feel how bad of an area that is to get kicked. It's like my leg was like, I was like, holy shit, like this is gonna fucking hurt. But it's not gonna come to that.
I was gonna say it's not gonna come to that because Kyle Borralho is going out on Saturday. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are gonna try to make these live shows more regular. That's the plan. At least for, let me double check. We have a show next week because UFC likes to do off weeks after pay-per-views. If the schedule would load. Holy guacamole, why is this thing not loading? Okay. We've got Luis Nascimento. The St. Louis card is next week. So we will have a show, UFC St. Louis, next week. Me and Maddie will do it live Thursday, 5 Eastern. You'll want to get these regular so you can get our takes before Friday so that you can get the best in the number, or in some cases the worst, like our girl Ernesta. Thanks so much for tuning in again. You can find my work, fanduel.com/research/UFC. Full fight by fight breakdown coming out there. Post my picks both on betmma.tips and Maddie's Homo Fight Discord. All full card from me. Maddie, your full card dropping tomorrow night, per usual?
Sir. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
So subscribe. We put the Discord link in the chat if you want to subscribe there, get our picks in one spot. It's good stuff with general discussion, like Clint will pop in there, Hey Jive will pop in there. So it's good stuff anyway. Thank you so much for subscribing there, as well as to Maddie's YouTube channel, the Mattybetts Pod, Homo Fight, wherever you ended up getting us today. We appreciate you doing so. But until next week in St. Louis, thanks for joining us and hope all your bets hit.